Hello and welcome to ASMR Ghost Stories. If you enjoy getting just a little bit scared, welcome. Go ahead and put on your headphones. All my stories are told in soft spoken or whispered form. Today we're going to head to Scotland, to the lovely Rosslyn Chapel. Now, if you've seen the Da Vinci Code, it was filmed, I believe it was at the end of the film. It was at Rosslyn Chapel. And the pictures that I have in the video, because you can either put your headphones on, lay back, listen to the story, close your eyes, or you can look at the pictures and still get a little bit scared and relaxed at the same time. This is when the pictures are from when we went in March of 2019. So, Rosslyn Chapel is touted as being one of the most mysterious places in Scotland, especially with the current glut of books purporting to show how hidden secrets lurk within every crack of stone at this venerated place. Anybody who has ever visited the chapel may feel that it deserves its current status. And I must confess, the atmosphere, even on a busy day, is something to be experienced. The exquisite carvings are some of the best in the whole of Europe and portray scenes not found in any other 15th century chapel. It has become a kind of mecca to those interested in the mysteries of life and contains many carvings relevant to biblical, Masonic, pagan, and Knights Templar themes. The area around Rosslyn has played an important role in the history of Scotland, and the castle was a key holding during the Wars of Independence. A battle was fought here in 1303 when a small force of Scottish knights defeated a larger English army 3 times in 24 hours. From what can be ascertained from the scattered surviving historical references, the chapel was built for the Prince of Orkney, Sir William St. Clair, in 1446. The chapel being part of a large-scale project involving a cruciform structure that was never completed. The Prince of Orkney died in 1484 and was buried within the chapel. According to Father Richard Augustine Hay, who published a study on the genealogy of the St. Clairs of Rosslyn, the workers and the materials were brought from far and wide. The village of Rosslyn being created for the numerous stonemasons and other laborers. It was in this period that the apprentice is supposed to have been murdered for far surpassing his master's skills, but more on that later. The chapel did not remain in use for long. Great changes in secular activity during the Reformation led to the provost resigning under threat of violence, and by 1592 the altars of the chapel had been smashed in accordance with the Reformation and puritanical thought. From this time onwards until the 18th century, the big building began to fall into ruination. Cromwell's troops used the chapel as a stable while they were besieging nearby Rosslyn Castle in 1650. It is surprising they did not destroy the chapel further, as many ancient places of sanctity were destroyed by Cromwell's troops. 8 years later, the chapel was attacked by an Edinburgh Mob and some of the villagers from Rosslyn. The chapel was still seen as blatantly Catholic and a target against idolatry, Some of the interior carvings of the chapel were damaged during the rampage. James St. Clair halted some of the environmental damage to the chapel when in 1736 he reflagged the floor and fixed the roof. The most extensive repairs were started in 1861 when architect David Bryce was commissioned to restore the chapel by James Alexander, the 3rd Earl of Rosslyn. It was rededicated on April 22nd, 1862. From then on, the chapel has been in use and restoration has continued. Although bad restoration techniques used in the 1950s have led to the covering's steel structure to allow the stonework to dry out. The chapel has played the part in many theories of mystical relevance. The chapel undoubtedly has a strong atmosphere. On my visit, I certainly felt uplifted as I walked through the door and into the chapel, and the romantic in me half imagined an upwelling of energy from under the stone floor, creating lightheadedness. But then, this is purely personal romanticism with no scientific basis, although later research suggested other people have had the same feeling. This is probably something to do with the dim light and the multitude of strange carvings. There has certainly been a lot of conjecture about the chapel's mystical significance. The place undoubtedly has many enigmas, and what follows are a few legends and theories. The chapel has been described as a tapestry in stone. It has some of the most impressive stone carving in Scotland, if not Europe, especially the apprentice pillar. This pillar is said to have been carved by an apprentice to the master mason. The master went to Rome to seek inspiration for carving. When he returned, he found that his ambitious apprentice had completed the pillar and made an exquisite masterpiece out of it. Enraged, he is said to have struck him dead on the spot in a fit of jealousy. Whether this is pure myth or based on a real event is not known. According to some sources, the Bishop of St. Andrew is supposed to have obtained the Pope's permission to delay the consecration of the building because of this violent deed that had taken place. The story may have its basis in the legend of Hiram Abiff and other aspects of Masonic thought and ritual. One of the carvings within the chapel shows a young man with a cut in his forehead. It is said to depict the murdered apprentice. There is a chance that the carving has been damaged in the past. However, either accidentally or intentionally, perhaps when the altars were smashed or when the chapel was attacked by an Edinburgh mob. The Prince of Orkney was undoubtedly involved in the order of the Knights Templar, who were forcibly disbanded in 1307, although they continued on in one form or another. The Templars have become embroiled in many legends of mystical significance. They were supposed to have in their possession the Holy Grail, and it has been surmised that the chapel is the hiding place for this and other religious treasures, including a fragment of the Holy Rood, the cross of the crucifixion. The vault, unopened for centuries, is the suggested repository for these items. The vault actually contains the remains of the Sinclair ancestors, interred in full armor as was customary until one of the wives objected to the practice in the 1700s. The chapel is also said to be a representation of Solomon's temple and is said to hold encoded secrets to those who are willing to work them out. Another legend suggests that if you stand on a particular step within the castle and blow a horn, a treasure will be revealed. Rosslyn, it has been suggested, is the treasure. Some of the carvings within the chapel suggest that there was an early contact with the New World 200 years before the discovery of America by Columbus. The carvings depict what is thought to be an American cactus and Indian sweet corn, things that should not have been known when the chapel was created. Perhaps the Templars, who traveled far and wide, discovered America before Columbus. There have been numerous sightings of phantom monks in and around the chapel. One curator is said to have witnessed a ghostly monk praying at an altar in the crypt, surrounded by 4 guardian knights. In other sightings, a monk dressed in gray and one in black have been seen inside and outside the chapel on a number of occasions. Curators have also heard mysterious noises when there was nobody about to account for them. Some people had strange experiences in the dark, atmospheric crypt of the chapel. One person I have spoken to felt a mysterious wind come from nowhere while alone in the crypt. A curious legend suggests that when one of the descendants of the Prince of Orkney dies, the whole of the chapel appears as if it is on fire. Sir Walter Scott wrote about the phenomena in his Lady of the Last Minstrel. Strange lights have been witnessed around the chapel more recently. No description about the alleged hauntings of the chapel would be complete without including Rosslyn Castle's hauntings and legends. The two are linked, both in history and mystical connections. The castle and its environs, still owned by the Sinclair family, are haunted by a black knight on horseback who has been seen by motorists on 3 separate occasions. There is no story to suggest who the figure might be, but speculation suggests he is a knight killed in the Battle of 1303. There is a story that if you stand on a certain step within the castle and blow a trumpet, treasure would be found. Although a similar story has been told to me about blowing horn within the chapel to reveal the secrets of Rosslyn. The ghost of a white lady is also said to frequent the area. The story with the longest precedent suggests a phantom hound who haunts the woods around the castle on dark and stormy nights, heralded by its eerie saying. The legend as to how it came to haunt the area is as follows, and can be found in full in the Moore Highland Folktales 1964 by R. Robertson MacDonald. On February the 24th, 1302, the site was the scene of a major battle between Scots and English forces. One of the English knights was master of a large war hound, and when the Englishman was killed by a Scottish knight, the hound attacked him so viciously that Scotsman was forced to kill it. That very night, as the Scots rested in the confines of Rosslyn Castle, the spirit of the hound appeared in the guard room, causing panic amongst the troops. After this, the dog appeared nightly, and the soldiers nicknamed it the Mothy Doog. Eventually, the turn to guard came to the man who had slain the hound's master. Walking down the passage with the castle keys, he let out a scream above the noise of a snarling hound and fled back upstairs in blind panic. He never spoke another word and died 3 days later. The hound was said to have disappeared from the castle after this event, although the sound of baying can still be heard. Additional information for you. Due to the increasing popularity of the chapel, through having been referred to the Da Vinci Code novel and film, it is said that the quietest time to visit the chapel is in the morning, as soon as it opens. There is an entry fee to visit the chapel. The castle, however, is not open to the public. Some more chilling events. In July of 2006, a group of actors were practicing in the chapel for a play they were about to perform at the Edinburgh Festival. One said that he saw a fairy-like figure in the grounds of the building. Another of the actors was locking up the chapel at the end of their rehearsal. Suddenly, he heard the voice of a child in the crypt. He didn't want to lock the child in overnight, so he went down to the crypt to get the child. When he got down into the crypt, he found that there was no one there. Another story is that the ghost of the White Lady haunts Rosslyn Chapel. Some say she is a girl from the St. Clair family who was bewitched by an evil spell. Now she sleeps in an enchanted room and is waiting to be rescued by a knight. Once rescued, the spell upon her will be broken, and the knight will become very rich. Yet another tale is of a ghostly dog which wanders around the grounds of the chapel. On wild and stormy nights, its ghostly barking can be heard. Since it was built, the chapel has been a place where monks have gathered to pray and worship. Some say there are monks who never left the chapel. One monk has been seen praying at the altar in the crypt. One report says that he is surrounded by 4 knights. There are also many people who have claimed to hear mysterious noises in and around the chapel. Some say that as you approach the crypt, you can feel a chill wind, even on a warm summer's day. As recently as 2010, some workmen were working through the night in the chapel. 3 different groups of workmen worked overnight and each morning. All said they would not work in the chapel overnight again. Most did not want to explain why, except for one. He said that while he was repairing the steps down to the crypt, he felt as if someone was behind him and watching him. He turned and saw a monk in a brown gown. He ran out of the building and asked the night watchman to go in and look inside. The night watchman found no one. Are these just stories, or does Rosslyn Chapel hold more than just memories? So to end today, when I was at Rosslyn Chapel, I didn't feel anything. Honestly, it was very cozy and quiet. Quite lovely, actually. The chapel itself was lit by candles, and there was quite a bit of a reverence while there. So if you do get the chance to visit Rosslyn, it is so beautiful. And there's a great little pub called Rosslyn Inn that we ate at. Has great haggis, and you gotta try it. So thank you all for listening. And if you did get something out of it, hit the subscribe button and the like button. It lets me know that you are enjoying these types of videos. If you do have a suggestion, comment below, or you can email me if you have a story that you want told, a subject, a legend, folklore, anything such as that. Also, I upload on Mondays and Thursdays, and sometimes I'll add in a little something extra in between those days, so hit that notification bell so you don't miss a video. So again, I appreciate all of you, and thank you for your wonderful comments. This channel is so much fun to do. Until then, stay just a little bit scared.